What's up everyone, Beast Mode back here with another video. So today I just wanted to review a few matches that I played with Blackwings. I hardly ever play this deck, but been playing a lot of zombies lately in War League, and I really need to kind of expand my deck library essentially because I'm becoming very predictable in War League. Everybody's side decking a lot of zombie hate and it's difficult to win. So I think it's going to be great for season 2 to be able to play some other decks at a really high level. So I play maybe a few matches a year on Blackwings. I just don't particularly care for the playstyle, but I do. Well, I've come to realize that this deck is just this and Frogs. They are really the top two decks of the format, in my opinion. I think right now, I don't think Edison Format is solved by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that we are starting to see a bit of a tier drop off. I think it's very clear what decks are better than others. I think at this point, I think it's, over the last few months, it's been very heavy in terms of tournament tops, being the Diva Hero beat deck, the Frog deck, Frog Hero essentially, Vayu, and Blackwing. Essentially, those are the four major decks that have been topping every event, and I do think that they are a class above everything else in terms of quality of cards, and they don't play a very fair game. If your deck is too fair, you just can't win. So anyway, I don't even know whose deck this is. I just downloaded a Blackwing deck. They're all very similar rather. A card or two different in each deck. Side deck, I haven't touched a thing. Load up the deck and just play. So I have a couple replays here. Unfortunately, I couldn't get like a lot of full matches. People just like leave. So this was like the first game I played with the deck, and we would just go through a little bit of it. So obviously, the reason why this deck is so good is because that if you get to go first, which I did here, Shura and like a Whirlwind or even Boro Whirlwind, it's crazy. It puts you in such an advantage that it's really hard for your opponent to just win the game. Really, like right off the bat, the quality of cards here are so much better. Everything works well together. Obviously, they're all the Blackwing archetype, rather, and like they all work together, obviously, and they're made to do that. So the deck just flows really well. Obviously, this hand is not the world's greatest. That's not terrible either. So right here, we can make a play that's really not that great. We can set up for deck Devi, which this deck can play, which is one of the blowout cards of the format, really. A lot of decks are not able to utilize this or utilize it as well as this deck. So as you can see here, we are just going to set up for we don't know what we're playing against, but most of the decks in the format deck Devi can just destroy. So we are going to do we're going to wait and see. So you always want to try to get a plus off of the deck Devi. You want to wait and see if your opponent heavies or maybe MSTs. And they go for a blind space, which is not typically a good play. I don't recommend doing that. I'm not even sure what this deck is. I see a Spark here and some Vayus. I don't know what it is. It doesn't seem very real, but we obviously chain the deck Devi there. So, and our opponent leaves the game. So this card is going to get a +3 there. They're going to have an Icarus and a Gemini Spark. Of course, we don't have an immediate threat, but this deck gets to play all of the unfair cards. And this right here shows a rage quit because their whole hand gets destroyed pretty much. So this is one of the strengths of Blackwings, is the quality of cards that they're able to play is just significantly better than others. So again, this is not an ideal play at all. Blind MSTing into a back row. It's pretty obvious that I have a deck Devi there. Like why else would I do that? But anyway, so that's the first replay. It's not really much of one. I just wanted to show you the quality of cards there. This here seems to be like a quick draw deck, and after playing the Plant Cat deck, it's pretty clear that the quick draw deck is like an A-ish tier deck for a reason. It can't hang with cards like this. Black Whirlwind's just so much better. Royal Oppression's just so much better than most of the cards in the deck, especially since Blackwings really just beat down the Dandelion tokens anyway. So I did get to go first. So this is not the ideal situation. Whirlwind with a Kalut, but we search a Blizzard, and again, I'm sure there's going to be moves here that I could make significantly different. I barely play this deck, and honestly, I was just slamming cards, really putting little thought into it, because when you see players, especially new players playing the format, they often gravitate towards some of the, Blackwing's very common deck, and this deck here can really bump up some of the bad players, I would say, because of the way the cards work. The deck can play extremely aggressive, and you can just have a total disregard for what your opponent's doing when you have Whirlwind, and you can just slam cards and win the game for it, and not really get punished often unless you walk into a Torrential or Mirror Force. So sometimes you'll see, players that aren't as good as some of the top players, and they are able to just win matches because of the way the deck plays. So that's kind of how I'm playing here. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to think much. And we even get heavied here, but we don't care. So it's really a 1-for-1 because we replaced the Black Whirlwind. We could have set Royal Oppression, but that card's really good, and you want to be able to play Royal Oppression when when you want to, like when you establish a board. So you would think that we're in a pretty bad position here, but yeah, we still have live plays, and then we draw Ashura, of course. So this is where you have to make your first decision. If you summon Ashura and that's a bottomless, you're in trouble. Obviously, it was a torrential. So I think we just go with a value play here. So if they torrential, we don't really care. That's probably why they don't. So we get the value play, and then they already used the heavy, so now we're setting both. We obviously going to Royal Oppression that. There's no reason not to. So we're sitting in a pretty good spot here. We summon Shura, and they don't torrential. I think this is probably a misplay. I'm not sure why. Maybe they're trying to get more value. I don't know. But just now we have a Colute here. So this is essentially a hand trap, right? This is going to protect us. It's like I drew a D prison, essentially. And we have Blizzard for a follow-up play at some point if this Royal Oppression ever gets destroyed. So you just see how much better these cards are. Like, sure, they have a level eater, which is common in some of these quick draw decks. Caius is really good, but Hamster Raikou kind of slow in this situation here. You really want to see that turn 1. So they try to special summon the quick draw. We tell them that it reveals in hand, and they don't have to discard. So maybe new opponent, maybe just newer to the deck in general. I'm not sure. Now we draw Icarus again. One of the better cards, trap cards of the format. Obviously, this card can be a +1 often if you play it right. That's usually the goal with this card. So we attack with Shura here. We could actually drop Colute and damage, but I don't think it matters a whole lot. So we just attack the Raikou, and of course they're going to target the Royal Oppression, which is fine because we have the Blizzard. We kind of knew that was going to happen. So we have Icarus attack. Just the quality of cards are just so much better. Like, they're drawing Titanials, which I did all weekend, last weekend during the tournament. This card is not good, and it shouldn't really be in the deck. Caius here is probably a great play, but I have Icarus and or Torrential, so it's not going to matter. They decided to go with the Raikou set, but we know that they have the Raikou because they charged, so we remember that. So we can make the choice of hitting both monsters. We hit the trap, and we rip this right off the top. Even if we don't, we still can Colute over the Hamster and then pull out the Gale. So obviously that's a really ideal top deck there. And then we're special summoning a value at this point. Everything just works so well. They scoop. After, I'm pretty sure I could have done something significantly different here, but you'll see when we get there. So we just slam. We expect it to be either a Raikou or a Hamster, and we don't care either way. So we set Royal Oppression here, just because of the fact that they could go maybe Lone Fire into Titanial or something. That's an option. And Icarus is not really live technically because, well, I guess it could be live. I guess I could have targeted, if they want Brain Control, I could have popped the Sirocco and targeted the Dragon and the Brain Control. That doesn't feel that great. Our opponent actually hits the back row, which is never really the right thing to do, but it works out here. And because you have to worry about Sirocco in terms of Colute could be there, and obviously if Sirocco stays on the board, then there can be some heavy damage with this card. So usually, and plus if that's a bottomless, then you just lose the game because you don't get any value attributing the Debris Dragon. So that's generally not a good play, but it works out here. I'm not sure our opponent just mind controls to deal damage. Again, not a good play. I'm not sure what the thought process was there. Even if they just run over the Sirocco, it's not a huge deal. We have Icarus attack with Blizzard. At some point, this is going to be live. We draw Gale, so we can out the Caius anyway. So this is actually not proper. I should have just halved and then pumped, so I don't play into Gores. But A, I don't realize it right away, and B, I don't care because I have Icarus attack. So I actually win the game here if I do this properly. I don't pay attention. I special summon the Bora, and I should just summon Blizzard and then pump in an attack. But again, we drew heavy. We have Icarus attack. Even Gores comes down. It can't stop us. So again, we just look at the cards that we have and look at the cards that they have. Okay, I have any given time at this point, I have a level 6 Synchro play. Okay, they have DD Crow. Sure, they can target the Bora. That's one time. They have Junk Synchron, Quick Draw Synchron here. This card sits in your hand all the time. That's why you can't play these decks. And Pot of Avarice, that's not live. Yeah, these cards are great. Pot of Avarice is great. Later game, but you have to get there. And we even gave this person another turn because I didn't play the right way. But again, Icarus attack is just so broken. I know for a fact I can clear at least 2 monsters here, and I have a heavy for any defensive traps that they have. So they draw and set first, which is not what you typically do, but we do exactly what we said we're going to do. And now they have to... so they could technically summon the DD Crow here and make like a level 6 play, but then they lose to Blizzard anyway. So we just heavy, and that's the end of the game. And again, I'm not trying to showcase the skill that I have for the deck. That's not what it, because there's not much. And again, I don't want to focus on my opponent's skill level. I want to just show why this deck is so much better than others. It's because you always have a play. The deck and the cards work well together, and the quality of cards are just, they're unfair. So I have one more replay against Vayu deck, which is a little bit better, obviously, in terms of metagame. And we can see here again. So 6 cards, Whirlwind, and of course I got to go first. These matches I'm showcasing here. So that makes, again, I keep saying War League 62% win rate going first. If you open up a Whirlwind in Ashura and or Bora, I'm sure it's like in the 70% tile. So we search here again. I'm not even sure if this is the right search. It could be Gale. Just make Gale there. I don't know. Doesn't really matter because look at the cards in our hand. So our opponent's taking a risk here because if we have a Kalut, they're in trouble. But we don't. We could have searched one, I suppose, but maybe that's the right play. I don't know. So in this situation, we draw heavy. So now I actually thought to myself here, how can I get the most advantage? Because I need to be able to heavy storm here because I want to drop Dark Arm at some point, but I also want to get value out of the Whirlwind because if you only get one search with it, it doesn't really get you that plus. It just replaces itself, right? But we can chain block. So that's one thing I do remember, that you can chain block and dodge Royal Oppression, because I'm assuming there's a Royal Oppression down, which there is. So we search for the value. They don't activate Royal Oppression, and then we hit them with the heavy, and we have value to discard for Brio, and they just scoop because they get blown out here. Because we can make Brio, we can pitch the value, bounce one of our cards back, we can brain control, we can drop Dark Arm. We're going to do a lot of damage here in one turn, and our opponent is not in a good position. So again, quality of cards in this deck are so much better. I think that this deck at a very basic level, as you can see, I'm just slamming cards with little to no thought, is extremely easy to play. The Blackwing players that are very good with the deck, obviously every deck takes skill to play at a very high level, but I'm saying I see a lot of new players that can come into this format and pick up Blackwings, and they can beat me. They can just beat me because they just go Sirocco, special summon Bora, drop double Kalut, pump, drop double Kalut, and just run over a monster. Like, they can win the game doing that. And also, no matter what happens, if you get this deck into a top decking, like even if I'm in top deck mode, I can draw a Blizzard. I can just draw Dark Arm. I can draw, Ashura, Sirocco. The cards are just so much better than everything else. So, again, I would say that this deck is fairly easy mode. And in terms of just, if you're going to pick up the format, I would pick up Blackwings. And it's obviously one of the best decks of the format. It's highly competitive. It's difficult to beat. It always has an answer to something. It has the best side deck cards. It's actually difficult to side deck against. All you're trying to do is put a Starlight, you put Starlight Road in and Dust Tornadoes in, and you're hoping that your opponent Icarus attacks so you can Starlight Road. But I see a lot of the smarter players, even myself in some of the games, I would side deck out some of the Icarus attack just knowing that they're side decking in Road. So I do think that this deck has to be played aggressive, which is not typically my play style, but I have watched some of the better players play the deck, and they will do some stuff where they will hold Whirlwind with maybe Ashura and then summon just like a Bora. Or they maybe will activate Whirlwind and summon Bora that way, and then let Bora eat the bottomless and then summon Shura. So there's a little bit of intricacies with the deck that obviously set some of the top players apart from the newer players. But that's pretty much all I have today. Just wanted to talk and showcase a little bit of the Blackwing deck. I definitely plan on playing some Hero Beat next and some Vayu because I need to, again, expand some of my deck library so I can just be more unpredictable in War League. And again, zombies are not in the best position, I feel like, at this time. I definitely need to explore some of the Ultimate Offering builds because I feel like the deck's getting outpaced right now. It's difficult to set up combos. People are getting extremely smart with not attacking recruiters. So I do think that the Ultimate Offering route may be the way to go because then you can just play and have no regard for what your opponent's doing. You can just set up those combos yourself. So I haven't really tested much of the deck. I've really been staying away from zombies for right now just to give myself a break. But I do think that you'll be seeing some zombie content coming back to the channel very shortly. And with that being said, I'll see y'all on the next one.